Another Eden Shion Alter Another Style. Should you pull him? Should you Stellar Awaken him? And how can you get him to deal max damage? It's David Wowee. How you going? I've got a Shion Alter Another Style guide for you. Keep watching. There are tips you don't want to miss. And a huge thank you to MPG for the feedback on my notes. Shion Alter Another Style, or Jet Tactician Another Style, or Shion ACAS as he's officially called, is the first Another Style version of an altered character in Another Eden. You can snag him by pulling him on a banner or side grading him with 5 Okuninushi treatises and the required scripts, or simply by getting him from a banner. How do you use him? On paper he's confusing as fuck. In practice he's also confusing as fuck. So listen up, because I've made everything very simple for you. The first thing you need to know is that Alter Another Style units work differently now. They activate a special kind of another zone. Check my zone guide after this video for another zones confuse you. The next thing they do is stack things called sonority stacks at the end of every turn. Sonority stacks give effects to the entire party. In Shion ACAS' case, can we change ACAS to something more pleasant sounding, by the way? Anyway, he changes Awakened Raging Fire stance to Radical Raging Fire stance, which is a 5-turn stance that can completely change the way you do battle. Here's how. First up, all you need is a Raging Fire stance for this to work, and then use his skill called Azure Pyre. So what happens when you activate Radical Raging Fire stance? First, you'll see a little icon at the top here indicating it's worked. This stance has the same effects of Awakened Raging Fire stance plus the abilities of Borrowed Sundering. Now, what on earth is Borrowed Sundering? Borrowed Sundering is an XL fire slash attack on a single enemy with a 55 times damage multiplier. Yup, it's strong enough to reach the 2.14 billion damage cap. On top of that, it stacks 1 Resonance Pierce. What does the Resonance Pierce stack do? I'll explain later, but for now, just know the following. The damage of this is based on Shion ACAS' intelligence and is usable only once per awakening. And here's the unique part. When this Radical Raging Fire stance is deployed, it changes the basic attacks of all party members also to Borrowed Sundering, so everyone gets to use Borrowed Sundering. You're probably asking, what if they have a unique basic skill like Tuki Alter's Morale and Minolka AS's Outrage? These won't be replaced until they're used up, if they can be used up. So in this example, after I used Minolka AS's Outrage, it was replaced by Borrowed Sundering. Now, is Borrowed Sundering even a good attack for your team members to use? In my basic tests, they deal okay damage, but it's much more impactful when Shion ACAS does it. I would only make your teammates use this skill as an extra semi-decent attack skill if they have no other useful skills to use in this turn. Another question you may have is, since this new Radical Raging stance is so dependent on another zone, is it immune to enemies that break your zone? From my basic tests and from information from my Discord community, join it by the way, it's free, the answer is yes. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that Radical Raging stance still works against enemies that are built to override your zone. So first up, Shion ACAS sets a new kind of Awakened Raging Fire stance with Radical Raging Fire stance, which in turn changes everyone's basic to a fire slash skill called Borrowed Sundering. And the second unique thing about Shion ACAS is his sonority gimmick. So how does sonority work in Shion ACAS' case? For sonority to activate, you need to first be in Radical Raging Fire stance. Once it's active, everyone gets Barrier Pierce plus a crit and magic crit rate buff, which can be pretty useful when fighting enemies with barrier and also helps build up Shion ACAS' damage. It also stacks something called Resonance Pierce, which I'll talk about soon. So to simplify things for you, Shion Alter Another Style's unique gimmick is that he sets a new style of Awakened Fire stance. In this case, it's called Radical Raging Fire stance, which is activated when you use his Azure Pyre skill. When this happens, everyone gets a new kind of basic attack. This time it's a fire slash attack, and everyone gets a crit rate buff and barrier pierce. This should last for 5 turns. Now you've got this, let's check out his best skills. First, we have the skill Azure Pyre, which we've talked about briefly already. Azure Pyre is the skill that you need to use to make Shion ACAS' whole gimmick work. Without it, you can't activate his special Radical Raging stance. Besides being a pretty strong 3 times XL attack on all enemies, where its damage is based on your intelligence, it boosts your power, intelligence, and speed by 50%. And it stacks 1 Zanshin. What do you need a Zanshin stack for? You'll find out soon, but because of this, Azure Pyre should be your main spam skill, and you should spam it up to 3 times because you can get the most benefit when you get 3 stacks of Zanshin. The next skill is called Dark Trial, which is his signature skill if you don't have him Stellar Awakened, and is also the crucial skill you need if you do have him Stellar Awakened. You'll find out soon. Dark Trial is a 2 times XL Fire Slash attack on a single enemy that gets stronger the more intelligence your Shion ACAS has. And remember when I mentioned Zanshin stacks? Here's where it gets important. The more Zanshin stacks you have, the stronger this skill becomes. And at 3 stacks, you deal the most damage with a 40 times multiplier. It also does 2 other things. It activates Epiphany mode, which increases your damage and healing by 25%. And if you've Stellar Awakened him, you'll stack 1 Scry Glass, which I'll explain soon. Once you've used this skill though, you lose all your stacks, so you need to spam Azure Pyre all over again. Another interesting skill that will happen after 10 turns is that Shion ACAS basic attack will be replaced by the skill called Ember Creation. Why? Remember when I talked about his passives, how whenever Shion ACAS is in the front line, he'll stack 1 resonance per turn. Once you've got 10 of these, his basic will be replaced by Ember Creation, which is a 2 times XL attack with a 60 times damage increase, and its damage is based on Shion ACAS' intelligence. It also stacks 1 Zanshin, allowing you to max his Dark Trial quicker. So knowing all this, what are Shion ACAS' best skills? If you haven't Stellar Awakened him, the skills I'd personally use are the ones we talked about, which is first Azure Pyre, which is your spam skill. Next, you'll use Dark Trial, and after Dark Trial, you can use Scorched Earth. It's his old skill, which I haven't talked about in this video, but basically it's a standard fire magic attack that reduces fire resistance. Or if you don't have someone else in your team like Masato AS to awaken Raging Fire stance, you can use Flame Encirclement, which does just that. You can also use Ember Creation as a nuke skill when you have 10 Resonance Pierce stacks. So how about Shion Alter's stellar skills, and should you even Stellar Awaken him? His main passive stellar skill activates Epiphany mode at battle start for 3 turns, which as mentioned increases his damage and healing, which you can also get if you use his Dark Trial skill. But let's move on to his main stellar skill called Scry Glass Trial. And mate, this skill is kind of annoying! You need to do so much for it to work properly. It's a main damage dealing attack that only really works if you've done the previous stuff I talked about, which is first, you need to get at least 3 Zanshin stacks by spamming Azure Pyre. Why? Because the next skill you need to use is Dark Trial, which is better if you have 3 Zanshin stacks. And guess what? Dark Trial also stacks one thing called Scry Glass, which you need to properly use his stellar skill, Scry Glass Trial. Once again, why? When you use Scry Glass Trial, it consumes 1 Scry Glass stack and activates the Dark Trial skill we just used. On top of that, during Stellar Burst, Scry Glass Trial stacks 3 Zanshins, allowing you to use Dark Trial again. Should you Stellar Awaken Shion Alter Another Style? I'd say yes if he's meant to be your main damage dealer and you've got no one else who's impressive or no other support to buff up his Dark Trial and Azure Pyre skill to make them that impressive. His stellar skills let you deal a bit more damage, but you've just got to remember the skill turn setup I recommended. But is Stellar Awakening him that necessary? Not really. You'll probably be spamming Azure Pyre, which delivers 3 hits instead of 2, and then combining that with Dark Trial, which can do the trick in a lot of situations. And the good news is, just to make things a little bit less confusing for you, the game actually puts a little word in brackets, HA, next to Dark Trial if you have 2 out of 3 Zanshins, meaning you don't have max damage yet. But if you have 3 Zanshins, the word Dark Trial in your skill selection slot will have in brackets Q, KYU, next to it, as you can see here, meaning you have got 3 stacks of Zanshin and it's ready for max damage. Now if you want to improve his damage, you can try the following equipment, Teams and Grasta. For weapons, you can try the Alpus Rod, Leopard Staff, Majima Staff or Transient Staff. For armor, the Pitch Dark Ring or Dryad Ring. Badge, the Intelligence Badge to boost up his int and increase his damage. For Grasta, try the Power of Agony or Pain, equipped with Bullseye, Rose with Thorns, and enhanced with Awaken Zone Ores. You can also try Weak Point Strike, Grasta. For gacha teams, I personally went with Tsukiha Alter, Sazanka, and Minaka AS with my testing. Or you can do MPG's recommended team, which I haven't fully built and haven't gotten the time to test yet, which are Annabelle ES or Renri Alter, combined with Tsukiha and Yuan. For a free team, you can go with Ryza, Kid, Senya Another Style, or Aisha. Should you get Shion Alter Another Style, aka Shion ACAS, as the first Another Style to an Alter character? Shion ACAS is designed to be your designated fire/damage dealer, but the fact that he's a staff user but does slash attacks is a sign of how confusing his character can be in battle. He's heavily dependent on you having a team setup where you set Raging Fire stance, then you have to use his specific skill as a pyre to activate his unique stance, Radical Raging Fire stance. Then you need to memorize the amount of times you do certain skills and the order you do them, which I've already explained, for you to deal the damage you should be dealing. So if you love spending time getting confused and studying characters, then Shion ACAS is your character, my friend. But amidst all of this, can he actually do decent damage? Yes, set him up right and he can be pretty decent in your team, but it does take a huge build up compared to other characters like you and True Manifest, Tsukiya Stellar Awakened with True Manifest, who can deal sick damage much quicker and with less fuss. Should you get Shion Alter Another Style? I'd say yes if you like Shion as a character, or if you want to be sentimental and have the game's first ever ACAS character, or if you have the team and patience to use his skill sequence, or if you don't have a decent fire damage dealer yet because he can help you out a lot, especially early game. I'd say no if you can't be bothered with any of the above, or are perfectly fine with side grading him over the long run, or if you already have decent fire damage dealing units like, as I mentioned, Ewan, any of them in Alcos, hey, and even Aldo, who's a decent fire/unit. Which character do you want to see next? Don't forget to like, sub, or if you're feeling generous, donate a thanks or become a super member. Shout out to my existing super members. Check out my other videos. You're gonna love them.